Greetings, friends and future friends. Today's video is on the Korg Pa5x. Now, last week, someone asked me, how do you adjust the parameters of the joystick? And there's a few ways you can do that. Mostly by going into Record Edit, Sound Edit, then pulling down all those drop-down menus, and you'll find the X and Y parameters you can adjust. And that's what we're going to do. So let's go in the studio and see how those things work. Okay. I got the keyboard all fired up, and before we get involved in the setting of the parameters of the joystick, let's just go over the joystick and the slider. So on the joystick, that is plus Y, this is minus Y, this is plus X, and this is minus X. Then the slider is basically in the 0, and that's going to be minus, and that's going to be plus. And that's the basic functions of the joystick. Now, I brought up this example style, and I set some of the parameters to help us in this tutorial. So first, let's mute out upper 2, and we'll go to upper 1. Now, I brought in this sound that I created called ARP Summer Test. And what I did in that sound is I went into it and edited out all the X and Y joystick stuff that would be associated to that sound. So if I play a C4, you can see that the X and Y movement on the joystick and the slider doesn't do anything to that note. So the first thing I want to show you is how we can set the parameters of the joystick on the X-axis here with the mixer. So if we go to mixer and we go down to tuning, you come here to main and then go down to tuning. Right here in this area, you'll see where it says bend. Now if we bring that up to 2, and now we play that C4, you can see that it's now changing the pitch, and it's going to change it in 2 half steps. And if we increase it, we can go all the way up to an octave. Also, when you're in this mode, if you go to menu and you go to key over here, you're going to see that there's joystick X. Now, if we click both of these off, you can see that the joystick doesn't work. And if we bring them back on, and that's in menu key ensemble. Okay, I want to show you a little trick here. Let's bring this upper 1 down to 5. Now, what that means is when I go to the joystick, I'm coming up 5 half steps, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would be that F. And if I hit the joystick, now something to think about. In the scale of C major, 1, 2, 3, 4, that F is the 4th. Now, you have to think about this for a minute, because what this keyboard is going to do is change that up 5 half steps and down 5 half steps. So if we go down 5 half steps, now that becomes a G, which is actually the 5th. So when we look at it musically, when I play this C4 and I bend it up 5 half steps, I'm actually playing the 4th. But if I bend it down, I'm actually playing the fifth. So think about that for a minute. It's going to change the half steps up 5 and down 5, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay in a key. It's just going to move them half steps up and half steps down. Now, what's really interesting is being that I brought in, if we go back to the mixer, I brought in ARP test into upper 2. Let's unmute that. And let's go back to our mixer. So now, if you look here, on upper 2, we're still at 0, so we're not going to bend it at all. And in upper 1, we're going to bend it 5. So if I play, the notes are the same. But if I push the joystick all the way to the right, which would be X plus, now we're playing the root note and the fourth. And if I go to the left, which would be minus X, we're now playing the root note and the fifth. Something to think about. You can bring in music theory and actually play chords while you're playing by using the joystick. Okay, now we can get really crazy. We bring this up to 12. Now if I go all the way to the left, minus X, this will now be an octave down below the original note. But I'm still playing the original note. Upper 2 is playing the original note, and upper 1 is playing it an octave down. And if I all go all the way to the right, and if we get creative, so using this bend adjustment in the mixer can also add to your creativity, because then you can actually bring in chord patterns and play chord patterns just by bending the joystick. Now let's go into sound edit and change some of these parameters. So we hit record edit, come over here to sound edit, and then we have our ARP summer test. And if we hit the menu, basics, we went through this before with the other videos on how to create a sample, so that's not going to pertain to much of what we're doing today. But we go, first thing is pitch. So when we go to pitch, here's some of the parameters that we can adjust to get the joystick working. But before we go into the joystick, I want to show you the ribbon. And here's the ribbon right here. And if we play that C4 again, you can see it has no change when I'm playing the ribbon. But if we add a couple of half steps, now in the middle is neutral. And if we bring in a little music theory and bring us up to 5 half steps, now we can play that fourth. So this ribbon is also a tool in the Pa5x that you can use to create bends in the pitch. Now, there's one thing I want to say right up front. When you're changing, before we change any of these parameters, when you change these parameters in here, what that's going to do, working on the joystick and then in here, you change it in the sound, those changes will stay with the sound. In other words, whatever you're doing to change the pitch or modulation or anything you save this to the sound will stay with the sound. Now, when we did the things earlier in this video using the mixer, those changes will save with the style. So in other words, you can't
you won't have to worry about messing up the sound because the sound is going to stay the same, only the style is changing that sound. So that's very important. When you make changes in the style, in the mixer, in the style, that sound will remain the same. But when you make changes in here, in this sound editor, this change right here, or any of these changes, will save with the sound, and that'll affect the sound in whatever style you use it in. Okay, let's adjust the joystick plus X and minus X to change the pitch. And let's just come over here and make this a 5. So we know that now we're going to go up, when the joystick is all the way to the right, we're going to go up 5 steps. And 5 steps would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, playing that fourth. But notice when we go to the left, which would be minus X, no change because we haven't adjusted the minus X. Now this is really handy when you want to create a scale or create a note shift, because now what we can do is we can bring this down to 7, which would be down 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would be that F. So what we have here is when we go all the way to the right, we're playing the fourth. When we go all the way to the left, we're playing the fourth, only an octave down. Simple music theory, but this is where it's really nice to change the pitch in the sound editor, because it'll allow you to do that. So if we have... Now on this page, there's a lot of things you can do, and I'm not going to go into all of them because it would just take too long. But if you look, a lot of these, if you even go over here, joystick, X and Y, all these have a parameter, joystick plus X minus Y. I mean, there's all these, you can add a joystick to just about everything in here. Even over here, there's a joystick. So I'm not going to get into all that. The one thing I do want to show you is right here, because this is the modulation. Now we're at 0, and you can see that Y isn't doing anything. But if we make this a 1, now we have modulation. And if we come down here and change that to a 1, LFO2 is now being engaged. So on this page, these are two big things that you'll see, that on most of the sounds, this modulation is where it goes. I mean, if we jack this way up to 5, and this up to 5, you'll see. Bring this down to 0 again. So in all these menus, you're going to see that there's the ability to bring a joystick into it. And again, it's all going to depend on what you're doing with your style. But again, these are the two, the LFO1 initiation and LFO2 with the modulation right here is where that's going to take place. Now on this page, which is the filter, if we go to menu and go to filter, there's a lot of things you can adjust. I mean, right here, there's joystick, bring joystick into that. But the most important thing on this page, I think, is this right here. So we go to joystick Y, and then we'll bring this up to 50. Now, when we play that C4, now you can see that it's initiating a filter, more of an EG filter on that. And when you're bringing down the Y, And if we bring this up even higher, we'll go 75. Again, there's a lot of things you can change on here. There's a lot of ways when you come into this menu and you're going to see joysticks. But again, this is the most interesting thing here right here, the AMS. And again, come over here to joystick Y, and I increase the intensity to 75. And now we have, when I hit the C4 and go down on the minus Y, another interesting fact on this page. Okay, now let's go down to modulation. And if we go here and we do joystick Y, and basically this is just going to be like a volume intensity. And if I hit that C4, but if I pull back on the joystick, and if I go to AMS2 and bring that up to 50, and then bring this to joystick Y, it's going to be the same thing. So that's something interesting. The amp modulation is going to just create the intensity, which basically is the volume. Now let's go to LFO. We'll go LFO, and we'll bring up joystick Y, and let's make this 75. Go OK. Now I hit the C4. Now when I pull back on the joystick, intensity of the amp there, AMS, and if we get back, turn this back off and that to 0, then turn this to Y, turn this to 75. Now we'll see. So again, we're adjusting the intensity by the joystick. So basically, this is adjusting the intensity. If you look over here, the LFO2 intensity is at 0, which is normal, what that sound would sound like. But when I pull back on the joystick, so it's another parameter that you can change. Okay, let's go to the envelope generator. Now, a lot of this stuff won't work with the sound I'm using as an example, but you're going to see that there is the ability to bring in a joystick. You know, all these have options to bring in a joystick. I can bring in a joystick and all that. We'll go back to off. So in the envelope, my sound won't work with this. I can't show you what they'll do, but know that there's that option in even the envelope generator, how you can use the joystick. So now we're in the LFO screen. If you go to menu, that's LFO. And you have LFO1 and LFO2, and they're basically both the same. Now, I used a basic simple sound so I could show you all the different changes in the joystick. And a lot of that stuff in my sound will not work with the LFOs and all that. But I just wanted to show you that there is joystick. You have joystick plus Y minus Y. Same with over here, joystick plus Y minus Y. If we go to LFO1, same thing. There are joystick options. So again, my sound, I really can't give you an example of those options in my sound, but your sound, there might be an ability to use that option, and be aware that they're there. X and Y, there's the plus Y and the minus Y. Okay, I ran into a little bit of a problem here, and I think it's a glitch with the latest software, or maybe they never really worked right before. But I just want to show you what I'm talking about, because I spent many, many hours trying to figure it all out, reading manuals and trying to figure this out. But let me just give you an example. So we got this ARP Summer Test 2 that I brought up. And if we go to pitch, I actually created a +5 on the plus X, and a -7 on the minus X, which plays really good. When I go right, when I go left, and that's actually an octave. Sounds pretty cool. And the ribbon works. Now, we save it. Save sound. So now let's make sure we bring this up. We'll ARP2, yes. And if we play it, let's go to the mixer here. If we play it, let's actually bring this down to 0. So if we play that, C4, we see that it doesn't tune, but we see the ribbon works, and we see that Y works. So the takeaway to all this is all the parameters that you can set with the Y and the X axis and the ribbon all seem to work except the bend. When you're doing a bend, it seems like the bend on the mixer will override the pitch change in your sound. So if you have it like I had a -7 and a +5 in my sound, it would not recognize that. It'll only recognize if I bring now, again, we play that C4, we don't have anything. But if I change this to a 5, now I have 5 steps up and 5 steps down. So the takeaway is when you're adjusting the X and Y axis in the sounds or the ribbon itself, everything works except the pitch. The pitch doesn't seem to work, and it's dictated by this. So in other words, this pitch bend right here control overrides anything you have on your sound. If you had a up 7 and down 7, it's only going to go to up 5 and down 5. I think that might be a glitch in the software, and I've looked and looked to find a way to disable this, but they're not able to disable this. So this overrides the pitch control in your sound.
So I hope this video showed you how to adjust the parameters on the joystick. There's a lot of things it can do. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You help us grow the channel. That way we can bring you more cool stuff. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.